3 or 4 years old. We had just arrived home from vacation, and my parents were doing the post-vacation schlepping of stuff. You know this, right? Everything that has to get from the car into the house and put away. Little me, I was thirsty. It had been a long drive. I kept telling my parents that I was thirsty. And you know what they told me? They said, wait a minute. Now, what every child knows is that a minute in parent time is hours in kid time. Back in the day, we did not carry water bottles with us wherever we went. I am convinced that we Gen Xers spent our entire childhood dehydrated. There were no Stanleys, no Hydro Flax, no Owalas at an arm's reach at any moment. It wasn't until college that I got my first Nalgene bottle. Little me, I was thirsty. We had one of those corner carousel cabinets in our kitchen. It was right at my level. It was where we kept the juice. And back in the day, remember, bottles of juice, they were glass. Opening that carousel cabinet, I found a 64-ounce bottle of cranberry juice. I was thirsty. I was a dehydrated Gen Xer. I needed a drink. So with all my preschool might, I took that 64-ounce glass bottle of cranberry juice out of the cabinet, and I went to put it up on the counter, and it slipped. That glass bottle didn't just break. It shattered. There was cranberry juice everywhere, all over me, all over the kitchen, out into the dining room that, of course, back then was carpeted. It was all there. Onto the floor, onto the ceiling, onto the walls, into the carousel cabinet that, of course, I had left open and was extra deep, and gets even better, into all the bags of stuff my parents had schlepped into the kitchen and dropped there. There was no place and nothing untouched by cranberry juice. Now, I tell you this story tonight because I am convinced that the great joy that the angels proclaimed at Christ's birth is a whole lot like that cranberry juice. I believe that when Christ was born, joy dropped down from heaven, shattered when it hit the earth, and went everywhere. Think about it with me. Joy is impatient. Joy does not wait for us to get our lives together to show up. It doesn't hold off until grief subsides, the hurt heals, or the cure comes. Joy does not postpone its arrival until we've worked through our issues or found that missing piece that we think is needed for our lives. Joy does not wait for all the things to be in place that we've said we need in order to be joyful. Joy is impatient. It shows up anyway, and joy has come. Joy is a force. When Christ's birth set joy loose into the world, it was a powerful force. Corrupt earthly powers, no match for joy. Systems of oppression, no match for joy. Dysfunctional families, no match for joy. Joy is a force. It has the power to challenge and transform anything and everything that tries to get in its way. And joy cannot be contained. You know, so often we try to separate out joy, compartmentalize it from those other emotions of anger, sadness, fear, dread, all those big feelings that we struggle to hold. Sure, we experience joy when the situation warrants it, but rarely is it just our everyday 24/7 way of being. But when joy explodes, it explodes everywhere, even into our deepest heartbreak. That is the great joy of Jesus' birth. Joy and grief, joy and sadness, joy and fear, joy and chaos, joy and disappointment, they are all held together. Joy cannot, it will not be contained. It is held right alongside everything else going on in our lives. Even more so, joy will always fight to claim its place every moment, every day, every heartbreak. You know, our worship tonight is filled with beautiful carols. And we'll sing about the first Christmas, how it was a silent night, a holy night, all calm, all bright. Our nativity scenes are picturesque. Everybody's hair is in just the right place, and no one is dirty. We hear about great joy, and we hear these carols, and we look at these scenes, and we might think that holy and quiet and perfect is what joy looks like. We might think that somehow we're doing it wrong if our lives are noisy, chaotic, and sometimes really dark and sad. We have this idea that Jesus came to bring the kind of peace that is associated with calm, and if we don't know calm, then we must not know peace. All of this could not be further from the truth. When Jesus was born, Mary and Joseph were far from the place they knew to be home. They were surrounded by relatives, some of whom they probably liked more than others. Crammed into an overcrowded family compound where the only room was with the animals. Now, look, our Christmas cards, they all have this picture of the stable out there in the back. No one's around. It looks very quiet and peaceful and serene. This is not how first century Palestine homes were made, okay? The stable was in the center, surrounded by all these little structures that had the kitchen and the bedroom and the guest house and that kind of thing. Jesus was born in the middle of the chaos. There was fear over what that registration was going to bring. There were too many personalities in too tight of quarters. The only place that Mary could find to put her newborn child, the Son of God, was a feeding trough in the middle of a poop-filled animal area. Now, I guarantee you the holiness of that night did not trump the natural order of the animal's digestive systems. That manger was surrounded by piles of animal poop. And of all the images of our faith, of all of them, if we ever get stained glass windows, we are getting the one that has the trough next to the animal poop with baby Jesus in it. Because this is the image that I cling to in my life the best. I know now no one is going to donate stained glass window money. Yep. Jesus in a poop-filled stable is the most powerful image of our God that there could be. That's how God came to earth, not by accident, but by choice. So if your life right now feels like a poop-filled stable, you are in good company. Jesus is right there with you, shattering joy into your mess. That's the good news of this night. Jesus was born. Great joy came to earth. That joy was impatient. It was a force. It could not be contained. It came into a poop-filled stable and claimed its place right next to the fear, the chaos, and the sadness, and the grief that was held in Bethlehem that night. And then that joy kept splattering. It carried out into the fields where the shepherds were watching their sheep. Joy claimed its space too, and then it kept on going even to us here this night. Friends, here's the thing. 2025 has kind of been a poop in the stable sort of a year. Every time we thought it couldn't get worse, it did. can't get more obscure. It did. We have filled bingo cards we didn't even know we had. Collectively, we have lost so much as fear, injustice, and bigotry have become normative. People we love have died. Diagnoses have been received. Careers have been lost. Livelihoods have been threatened. The value of people's lives and who they are as beloved children of God has been called into question. Hard doesn't even begin to describe 2025. I know no one coming out of this year unscathed. We need joy. We need joy to claim its space in our lives and in our world now more than ever. We are not going to be able to go find it on our own. We need joy to explode in our lives right now and claim its space without hesitation. When my mom tells the story about my cranberry juice explosion, she always adds at the end that when we moved out of that house about 6 years later, she was still finding cranberry juice. She'd go to open a cabinet and dig for a pot in the back and put her hand in something sticky. She'd go to try to, pull something that dropped behind the refrigerator, and there would be a streak of red cranberry juice. No matter how hard she tried, she could not clean up my cranberry juice explosion. Friends, I pray that might be our experience with joy, too. The good news of Christ's birth is not that God showed up to magically right all that was wrong in the world, making today's chaos, disruption, fear, and mess a sign of God's failure or God's absence. The good news of great joy is that God came to be with us, to save us from sin and the certainty of death, to chart a new way of being in relationship with us so that we will never be alone, to give us a promise of joy that is so impatient, powerful, and uncontainable that it will show up even in our darkest of moments, always claiming its space in our lives. This year, and every year, may the good news of great joy for all people be for us, for you and for me. May we think of joy dropping down from heaven at Jesus' birth, shattering when it landed here on earth, and going everywhere, going into your lives. The best part about joy is that we can't clean it up. It's going to keep showing up over and over again in every heartbreak, in every hard moment, in all of our days, from generation to generation. Joy has come. Thanks be to God. Amen.